Trump's repost was the second time in 10 days that the former president shared content from his personal account making sexually oriented attacks on VP Harris. Though he has a history of making crass insults about his opponents, the repost signaled Trump's willingness to continue to shatter long-standing norms of political speech and conduct of those running for the highest office in the land. Perhaps it's the desperate nature of Donald Trump that's causing this despicable conduct, because Kamala Harris has surged ahead of Trump 48% to 43% in a new U.S. Today Suffolk University poll. The findings reflect an 8-point turnaround in the presidential race from late June, when Trump had led Joe Biden in the survey by nearly 4 points. The vice president's lead was fueled by shifts among key demographic groups traditionally crucial for Democrats, including Hispanic and Black voters and young people. Among those with annual incomes of less than $20,000, in the biggest change, they were amongst the biggest change, a 3-point Trump edge over Biden in June has become a 23-point Harris advantage over Trump in August. And trading friendship bracelets at political rallies, wearing t-shirts that say "In My Voting Era," holding debate watch parties that are as glittering as album drop parties. Well, these are a few ways some Taylor Swift fans are seeking to intertwine their fandom with get out the vote efforts ahead of the presidential election, urging their hundreds of thousands of fellow Swifties to support VP Kamala Harris. Organizers of a Zoom call on Tuesday said Harris could lead this country into daylight. More than 34,000 people joined the Swifties for the Kamala call, raising more than $122,000 and featuring appearances from singer Carole King and Massachusetts Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren. A way to win Eras tourist tickets was also a part of the call, and plenty of allusions to Swift lyrics. And former President Trump said in an interview with NBC News that if elected, his administration would not only protect access to in vitro fertilization, but would have either the government or insurance companies cover the cost of the expensive service for American women who need it. Now, he says under the Trump administration, we're going to pay for that treatment. But this stance by Donald Trump puts him at odds with anti-abortion advocates who oppose certain parts of the IVF process that involve discarding unused embryos. And also, people are aware that this IVF procedure that many couples have to use to have families cost about $20,000. So the question for Donald Trump is, who's really going to pay for this? And how do you get anti-abortion activists that have been so active in the overturning of Roe v. Wade to support this policy? Well, Vice President Kamala Harris said she plans to appoint a Republican to her cabinet if she's elected in November. In a clip of a CNN interview, that much anticipated interview that will air tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, well, I guess it's 9 p.m. Eastern time, Democratic presidential Kamala Harris says she was committed to welcoming diverse points of view. Now, Barack Obama nominated several Republicans to his cabinet, including the Transportation Secretary and Defense Secretary. And Republican presidents have also appointed members of the opposing party, including holdovers from previous administrations. And donors to VP Kamala Harris's campaign are pushing her to reconsider supporting a proposed tax on the wealthiest Americans, as some Wall Street and Silicon Valley executives try to reshape the Democratic nominee's governing agenda. The Harris campaign last week said she supported the tax increases included in President Biden's latest White House budget proposal. One of those plans would require Americans worth at least $100 million to pay taxes on investment gains, even if they have not sold the stocks, bonds, or other assets that have appreciated. And VP Harris continued campaigning today in Georgia, where she held a rally in Savannah. This is during the time that she was participating in that CNN debate, along with her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. You can watch that entire interview, although they've played some clips. And what we know the VP to have said during that interview is that her values have not changed. She told Dana Bash in a clip released today that even though some of her policies on things like the Green New Deal and border security may have slightly changed, she has been consistent in terms of her values on immigration, the economy, and lifting up middle-class families. This is the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm joined by Dr. Raphael Sonnenschein and Ed Sanders, two veteran political analysts and strategists. Glad to have them with me. Lots of breaking news today on the political front. And in hour two, you know what we do. We go deep. We dig behind those headlines, and we bring you those stories that people are talking about. We bring you a little deeper stories. So go behind those headlines. And we've been talking a lot about the internet and the way that both campaigns are using social media and the internet to reach voters. Well, we also know that misinformation on the internet is ratcheting up and is specifically targeting communities of color. And even though enthusiasm remains very high, we know this is going to be a very close election, and that misinformation and disinformation that's targeted to minority voters can have an impact. Access to the internet, who's using it, who's using what sites, all those are big issues that we're grappling with as we are facing what some call the most existential election of all times. So in hour two, we're going to talk to a tech expert, policy and community expert. Her name is Nicole Turner-Lee. She's out with a new book called Indigitally Invisible: How the Internet is Creating a New Underclass. And talk to Miss Lee about how some folks aren't even connected to the internet. As hard as that is to believe, there's still communities, poor communities, rural communities where people struggle to gain access to the internet. And then those who are on the internet who are targets of scams, targets of Russian bots, targets of right-wing conspiracy theorists, what folks need to know to protect themselves, gain access to the internet, and to use it in a safe manner. So make sure you stick around for hour two. But before I bring in my guest, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. You know, in just a span of 24 hours, with fewer than 70 days until the election, Donald Trump has been zigging and zagging all over the internet, speaking of the internet, with an arsenal of unfocused attacks and pursuits that any other politician, would abhor, and which would sink the candidacy of any other politician. But for some reason, Donald Trump gets an enormous amount of privilege. People brush aside his attacks. They say, oh, that's just Donald Trump being Donald Trump. They say they don't care about the way that he comports himself, the language that he uses, the conduct that he engages in. They say they want him as president because of his policies. Now, if you ask most of these people that say that what his policies are, the reality is most of them can't tell you a single solitary policy of Donald Trump, because it's hard to know what his policies are, because he flip-flops all over the place, like on this IVF policy. He brags about overturning Roe v. Wade, and it's the overturning of Roe v. Wade which fueled this attack on IVF and other reproductive health measures that women utilize in this country. So you can't be proud of overturning Roe v. Wade and then try to convince us that you're going to support the payment by insurance or the government of IVF. It's a complete lie. It's not logical, and it's not believable. So let's be clear about that. But yet the folks that support him don't care that he lies, don't care that he uses insults, don't care that he breaks down, has these complete meltdowns on national television, as he had when he called into Fox News when Kamala Harris was giving her acceptance speech at the DNC. They don't care that he literally talks about and promotes conspiracy theories, that he shared a manipulated online image of Bill Gates in an orange jumpsuit. They don't care that he called Barack Obama to face a military tribunal. They don't care that he promoted explicit tributes to QAnon conspiracy theory. They don't care that he's online hawking. Yes, a man that wants to be the president of the United States is hawking digital trading cards in an online infomercial, along with pieces of his debate night suit. Yes, he's selling pieces of his debate night suit. People are calling it online the knockout suit. His campaign, as we know, yesterday fueled publicity with Arlington National Cemetery over a visit. Apparently, his staff getting into a fight with the people that work at the cemetery, whose job it is to guard the cemetery and protect the sanctity of that space. His people were there trying to use the cemetery for a photo opportunity. And his team calls the person who was trying to stop him, says the person had a mental breakdown of some sorts. And then the people with him at the cemetery post pictures of them at a sacred section of that cemetery, section 60, where they were not supposed to be, with photography, with cameras, with photos. It doesn't matter. He just breaks all the rules, and his people just say, oh, well, it's just Donald Trump breaking the rules. Doesn't matter. They don't care that he has falsely accused Kamala Harris of staging a coup in order to secure the Democratic National nomination without any evidence, of course. And he's now fueling this conspiracy theory that she is somehow responsible for a security lapse that enabled this gunman to try to assassinate him. They don't care about that. They don't care that he's lying and saying that Kamala Harris asked CNN, or asked, I guess it's ABC, the network that's going to sponsor the debate on September 10th, if she could use note cards, as if Kamala Harris needed note cards to debate no English speaking Donald Trump. Really, Donald Trump? But they don't care. They don't care that he tells complete lies. And now that he is promoting this sexist and just completely misogynistic and crude and crass post about her somehow giving Willie Brown, 90-year-old Willie Brown, a blowjob, let's just call it what he called it. They don't care that he has allowed the presidency and the office of the presidency to be literally drugged through the mud. Because let's face it, some people only care about their own power, their proximity to power. Some people only care about supporting white supremacy. And they see Donald Trump as being the candidate that will maintain the status quo and will support and continue to support white supremacy. So they're willing to ignore all the things that ordinarily sink a candidate, the lies. A story in the news today is accusing Wes Moore, beloved Governor Wes Moore, of making a misstatement about a medal that he received while in the military. And the article is like, chop his head off, get rid of him, run him out of office. Oh my God, he told a fib about a medal. Donald Trump opens his mouth and tells a fib every time he speaks, and 70 million people say, make him president. Look at who Wes Moore is, and look at who Donald Trump is, and ask yourself, how is it that Donald Trump can tell a lie every time he speaks and become president, and Wes Moore, educated, super successful governor of the state of Maryland, maybe made a misstatement about a medal, and an editorial article in the paper says basically he's not fit to serve? I'll let you decide what the differences are between Wes Moore and Donald Trump. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Febreze.
Fabric Talk. Hey, it's me, your couch. Today's my favorite day of the week. Febreze Fabric Spray Day. The occasional deep cleans are nice, but in between, I'm needing a refresh. Ooh, here she comes with the Febreze Fabric Spray. Oh yeah, spritz them armrests. Don't be shy. Nothing like a good spray down to get me smelling so fresh and clean. Don't forget my back. Nice. Febreze Fabric Spray. It's just that easy. Now we can both breathe happy. Febreze. La 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 la.
What if
the conversation about menopause and bladder leaks didn't have to be a secret. Always Discreet helps you embrace this new chapter with confidence, offering a bladder leak solution that keeps you worry-free. Its rapid dry core quickly locks away even the biggest gushes with up to 0 leaks, 0 wet feel, and 0 odor. So you can jump, dance, sneeze, and laugh uninterrupted. Everyday protection for every level of leak. We've got you always. Try Always Discreet today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA CAN also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007, they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA CAN believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and Dr. Raphael Sonnenschein and Ed Sanders, both veteran political strategists and analysts, are joining me in this hour. Both of you are Californians. You've been around for a long time. And this morning, Rafe, I was talking to the Human Rights Commissioner for the state of California. City of San Francisco. She's up north in the Bay Area. And she said these insidious rumors about Kamala Harris and Willie Brown were really rampant. Pretty much every campaign she ran in San Francisco, first district attorney and then obviously attorney general, but they had died down. But she says, they've rehashed these stories over and over and over again. And I'm just curious as to your thoughts about them. Willie Brown apparently put Kamala Harris 30 years ago on a couple of, local commissions. And now the narrative is that somehow he is responsible for her career, that she slept her way to the top. We never see those kinds of claims made against male candidates. And to suggest that somehow Willie Brown is so powerful that he could be responsible for Kamala Harris winning a citywide election or countywide in San Francisco, and then a statewide election, not once, but twice, 3 times, and then go on to be selected by Joe Biden as the vice president, that somehow Willie Brown is magically making all of that happen. It's really just an absurd rumor, insulting on so many levels. But why does it get so much traction?
Well, it's all just part of a fire hose of insults. I mean, you'll trade that one for 3 others before the week is out. And you sort of prospect with it. You throw it out, see if it sticks. It doesn't stick, you go somewhere else. The downside is people get pulled into providing rational answers to each of these items of the fire hose and say, well, it's not really correct because, as you can see, here's the following real answer. They've already moved on to the next set of insults. So some of it is to treat the whole thing as a fire hose, of which this is only one. It's insulting. It's ridiculous. There will be much more before this is over. There'll probably be 8 or 10 new ones. And that's, I think, the problem sometimes Democrats get in the Trump era, is answering each charge as it comes up, saying it's manifestly ridiculous. Now, it doesn't mean people believe it. What it is, it's a set of experiments to see what you can get people to mark somebody down for. Maybe that this whole thing about McDonald's, whether she worked at McDonald's or not. I worked at I sold sandwiches door to door. I don't have that on my resume. I was pretty good at it, but I don't make that part of my resume. And when that one's done, you move on to the next one. But each time there's a danger of getting trapped into treating them as rational arguments. And if only you could have a chance to persuade people, there'll be more coming. It's just awful stuff, and it's going to keep coming.
Yeah, one of the things that obviously Donald Trump is running scared. You know, he in some ways helped to push Joe Biden off the ticket because he was one of his loudest critics, called him senile, called him demented, called him every name under the book. And he got what he asked for, which was a ticket with Kamala Harris. And these poll numbers have to make him very, very nervous, have to have him very concerned. He sees all the enthusiasm. He saw how lit that convention was compared to the RNC. He sees all the celebrity star power, all the on the ground grassroots, these new polls out from USA Today and Suffolk University. We know polls aren't always accurate, but nobody wants to wake up to a poll that has them 5 points down when they were leading just 2 months ago. So there's a certain element of desperation that we're seeing from the Trump camp because they don't really know how to attack Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, with Trump, it's sort of the same story. I mean, to your point, his Republican Party has lost cycle after cycle over the last few years, and so basically, the stick that he offers, it's not a winning argument. It hasn't been an argument that has carried Republicans nationally for the last few years. I thought he was fortunate to win the presidency when he beat Hillary Clinton the first time. But the true point of it is that his message isn't one of hope. It's not one that actually has people looking forward or even really thinking. It's one that relies on these subtle, Kamala is the low IQ comments, the innuendo that she may have, all of that, which is all distasteful, is what his campaign is. And once you boil that back, you can see that he's really not as popular as he thinks. That's really clear. And to your point about the polls, the country is reacting. All of these battleground states are reacting in a way that I'm proud. It makes I really feel good about the country that they're reacting this way. It really showed that once you have a true alternative to Donald Trump, he can be easily beaten.
Yeah, Ray, states like North Carolina, I was talking to someone from the party earlier today. They're like, oh, we're excited. North Carolina is really, really in play. So places that may have been written off with Joe Biden are on the map now.
Well, what's really startling about this is that the Biden campaign plan was to make the election about Donald Trump. Kamala Harris's campaign is actually not so much about Donald Trump. And one of the reasons that I think Trump is so desperate right now is to get attention, even if it's terrible attention. You just keep saying things to be seen. Her campaign is so far about bringing Democratic-leaning voters back in, which means it's a dialogue that doesn't involve Donald Trump. He's not in the conversation that she's leading. I love Joe Biden. I was very sad to see him go, but he did not have this dimension of going past don't vote for Trump, but I've got something else going for me that you're going to be excited about. And I think that is really alarming the Trump campaign. And I think they're going back to the old playbook. They're trying to draw her in to that same dialogue that's worked for him in the past. And she's not ignoring it, but she's sort of staying a little bit out of it, which is kind of hard for him. He doesn't have anybody to punch.
Yeah, and speaking of this campaign, I mean, we've all seen a lot of campaigns, and by most standards, this one is damn near perfect. I mean, they've just rolled it out so flawlessly. I was concerned about the Biden-Harris team being able to, make nice in the sandbox and the transition and all the things you have to worry about because, campaigns bring out the best and they bring out the worst in people. But this campaign so far has just done an outstanding job. What do you make of this CNN interview that's going to play tonight? We've seen clips of it where Kamala Harris says she's been consistent in her values all along. We know the legacy media was pressing her. You got to sit down. You're not answering questions. Again, double standard, because when Donald Trump would ignore what he called the fake media and all the pejorative terms he uses to describe the media and talk to people on social media, he was deemed brilliant. Oh my God, he's not letting, media kick him around. But now, Kamala was not sitting down with a traditional kind of station network. She did it today with Tim Walz. Do you think that was, a good decision to do? I'm sure we haven't seen the entire interview. We'll see it right after my show. But what do you make of her even relenting, I'll call it, capitulating, and I don't mean in a negative way, but just agreeing to do it?
Well, I think she needed to do it. And I think to your first point, the campaign has rolled out and in really some unique circumstances. And I think that's the key here. Within a very short amount of time, you saw a campaign switch from Biden to Harris. They were able to pull off pick a vice president, pull off a convention, and now you're in sort of the final stretch towards election day. But all buried in that is that there is a difference between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. They're two different people. They've got two sets of priorities. They view the country, they view the world differently. And, it does take a bit of time for a campaign, for surrogates to start to understand some of the nuances, and frankly, for her. I don't know that I would have advised her. In fact, I know that I would not have advised her to sit down with the press until she had a true opportunity to think through what are some of the distinctions between her and Joe Biden. And there will be some subtly. Obviously, they adopted the Democratic Party platform during the convention, but there are some subtle differences between them. And she's got to be able to put.
I want to go deeper on that, because that's one of the critiques about her, is that we don't know what her policies are. So when we come forward, want to talk about her policies and this shift by Donald Trump on IVF. Is it real or is that fake news? Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says the city is facing a nearly $1 billion budget deficit for 2025. Johnson, who is Black, told reporters that the gap is significant and it's going to require decisions that will speak to the city's overall collective desire to build an economy that works for working people. The Chicago budget director added the city is currently considering several ways to repair the $233 million hole for 2024. It includes slowing down hiring, imposing a hiring freeze, and reducing spending. The head of Maryland's cannabis administration is stepping down. Governor Wes Moore announced that Will Tilburg intends to step away from his post on December 4th. Moore, who is Black, expressed his gratitude to Tilburg, saying he made Maryland a national model to show how states can transition into the adult-use cannabis market fairly and efficiently. Tilburg's efforts led to more than $1 billion in pot sales in the first full year of weed being legalized for adult use in Maryland. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
An accident in downtown LA is currently blocking the left lane of the 101 south of Alameda Street with stop traffic from Gower Street up to about 55 minutes. In East LA, on the 710 south at Cesar E. Chavez Avenue, an accident involving 3 vehicles is in the center divide. Stop traffic comes from Floral. Then watch for an additional stop delay from the 60 Pomona Freeway, also on the 710 south but at 3rd, as a separate accident is on the right shoulder. In Duarte, Carpool Lane is blocked with an accident involving 2 vehicles on the 210 east of Buena Vista with a 35-minute delay and backup from Mountain Seco Street interchange.
As humans, we like having options. One option you might like is speaking with a real person when you call about your credit card. With 24/7 live US-based customer service from Discover, everyone can talk to a real person anytime, day or night. Limitations apply. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The contract extension signed Thursday morning by Golden State Warriors star Steph Curry puts him in a very special category with LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Curry, LeBron, and Durant are the only players in NBA history to pass $500 million in career earnings. Curry signed a 1-year extension worth $62.6 million. The deal keeps Curry with Golden State through the 2026-27 season. Curry had 2 years left on the contract that he signed in 2021. The extension paves the way for the 36-year-old Curry to finish his career with Golden State. 4 HBCU schools are on the college football schedule today. All 4 teams are playing their season opener on the road. Howard University at Rutgers, Jackson State at Louisiana Monroe, North Carolina A&T at Wake Forest, and Arkansas Pine Bluff at the University of Arkansas. We'll have recaps for you tomorrow morning on all 4 games. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tabitha Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
Support comes from Getty, presenting Memnon, a world premiere theatrical event under the stars. Memnon tells the tale of a powerful Ethiopian king who fights alongside Troy during the city's darkest hour. This epic Greek myth has been overlooked for over a millennium. Until now. Memnon is co-produced by the Classical Theater of Harlem, Thursdays through Saturdays this September at the Getty Villa Museum. Tickets are available now at getty.edu.
Hey LA, today I'm here to talk to you about Grid Alternatives, which is a nonprofit in LA that focuses on renewable energy. We serve communities who have been left out of the renewable energy sector. We offer paid job training, and in 13 weeks, you can become a solar installer. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry, and once you're hired in the industry, you stop at a high, medium income. That could be $20 an hour or more. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry. Call today so you don't be left out at 323-861-0105 or gridalternatives.org, gridalternatives.org.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Single Moms Planet is a nonprofit organization dedicated to uplifting under-resourced single mom business owners and working mothers nationwide. Single Moms Planet offers comprehensive programs of financial literacy, business development, mentorship, and entrepreneurial training. They provide education, accountability, and hope. Single Moms Planet was founded by model, TV personality, and producer Nefertiri Plessy. Nefertiri felt firsthand the challenges that face single moms as she was raised by a working single mother. She learned that the most disadvantaged group in the United States are single mom families. According to the U.S. Census, 30% live under the poverty line. So she decided to do something about it, along with co-founder Cole Patterson. Their goal is to end the poverty cycle in single mother households through education, opportunity, and networking, providing family and child enrichment programs for under-resourced single-parent families. Single Moms Planet serves over 10,000 single moms and their children each year. Studies show that business development and financial literacy provide a positive environment for children and families, exposing them to new possibilities and opportunities. To attend one of their fun events, make a donation, or get more information, or if you need help as a single mom, please visit singlemomsplanet.org. That's singlemomsplanet.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We're back, and Dr. Raphael Sonnenschein and Ed Sanders, veteran political strategist and analyst, are joining me. And in hour 2, we're going to be talking about the Digital Invisible. It's a new book out called Digitally Invisible, How the Internet is Creating a New Underclass. So much focus in this presidential election on the internet, how it's being used, how posts are being used to target certain voters. We don't often think about those folks who don't even have the internet, or who do have it, but have limited access because of the bandwidth in the different communities where they live. So we're going to talk about how we make sure we're not creating a new underclass, and that is people who don't have access to information, as well as how do we keep folks who are on the internet safe from all of the disinformation and misinformation that's targeted towards certain communities. But Ed, we were talking about Kamala Harris's policies. One of the critiques of her near perfect rollout is that people don't know what she stands for, what her policies are. Then there's this article in the New York Times today that wealthy donors do know about this policy, and it's a policy of a proposed tax on the wealthiest Americans. Wall Street donors and Silicon Valley executives don't want to be taxed. Those who are worth more than $100 million don't want to pay taxes on investment gains. According to the Biden policy, they would have to pay certain taxes on these capital gains, even if they've not sold the stocks, bonds, or other assets that have appreciated. So what do you make of that? So here are these wealthy people, $100 million worth, not that you have it, that your net worth is that. So that means you probably have so much more than $100 million. Why would these people try to avoid? I mean, we know why they want to avoid taxes, because rich people just want to stay rich. But in a campaign this close, why?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, and I don't know the specifics of that particular policy. I think for Kamala, as she is laying out her vision for the country, there will be some specifics. I think that she's going to have to address. Clearly, when it comes to the issue of the economy and pocketbook issues, I think she is on solid ground. And you've seen her poll numbers start to make up the difference between she and Trump on the question of who can best manage the economy. And in that is this answer of, there are going to be some distinctions about what her economic policy is. As we were going to break, the question was, did she need to sit down with these interviews? And these are some of the things that I do think she needs to address and start to lay out in some specific side of it. But ultimately, she's got to answer some of the questions that the country has with regards to that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this article in greater detail. Ray saying that some of these ultra wealthy people have told her advisors that she should drop this policy. One top donor close to her has raised the issue with her in a private conversation, encouraging her instead tax the ability of the ultra wealthy to borrow against their wealth. Allies and staff have defended the plan to business leaders in private conversations, explaining that the tax would apply to only a small slice of wealthy Americans and could be delayed for investments that are not easily sold. So you have, even amongst Democrats, obviously all Democrats aren't created equally. Some of Democrats like us are working folks, go to work and pay our taxes. Then there you have these ultra wealthy people worth over $100 million who still don't want to pay their fair share, or pay more than working class folks. I'm just appalled. I've been really triggered by these donors, some of the same donors who withheld their money and could have literally sank this election. And now they're using their proximity to her to get into her ear. Again, you and I, everyday people can't talk about our taxes. We don't have that kind of access, with barring some unusual circumstances like being a friend. But you get my point. My point is, why are these rich people just acting? I'm going to call it acting out.
Well, it's some rich people. I mean, believe it or not, there's a lot of wealthy people who favor this very plan and support it. And don't forget, they can say whatever they want, but she's raised $500 million since she came on board. And a lot of it is from small donors. The Republicans are much more dependent on large donors to carry their campaign than Democrats are right now. It's very helpful, but it's not a good look when people do that. I'd like to go back to another point, though, is does she have to give interviews? Does she have to talk about policy? A lot of this is just invented stuff that the media pops up, and like everything else, it changes every week. Now she'll have to do 5 interviews instead of 1. Then she'll have to do a news conference. Do you think when you talk to a voter, they're saying, I'd really like to see a 20-point policy proposal from Kamala Harris, and until I've seen that, and my God, why isn't she on CNN more often talking? And last thought, when John Kennedy beat Richard Nixon in 1960, you know what you'd remember from his campaign? He said, the country is stuck in the rut and we need to move forward.
That was his policy proposal.
Well, there were plenty of policies assumed that win that, like save Social Security and minimum wage and be good for working people and civil rights and things like that. But really the big picture is what really defined and won the election, was that John Kennedy was going to move the country forward. and the country was in a rut and had to move forward. I mean, it's the voters that matter, not the reporters who would like to have their needs met. And those needs change every week. If they get one thing, they want to do 10 things.
Yeah, and we should be real clear. Some of these networks, including some of these cable stations, they are drawing hundreds of thousands of viewers versus these content creators, online influencers who are literally getting millions, multi-millions of eyes on their content. And that was proven by the DNC by giving credentials to 250 influencers. And I saw something today that says those influencers, the post that they created, 400 million impressions across the internet. And they did a comparison with what the reach is of some of these news shows. And it's just apples to oranges. And you're right, Rafe, everyday voters can't even these Donald Trump supporters, as I said in my opening, they don't know what his policies are. They don't have a clue about any policy that he has. And everyday voters, even if you have a long list of policies, aren't likely going to study them that closely. They just want to feel like the person in that office is looking out for them, has their backs, is going to be supporting, good policies. They don't even know what the policies are, but good policies that are going to move the country forward as well as lift them up. Which is why, again, and you're right to point out there's lots of wealthy people who've given hundreds of millions of dollars collectively to this campaign. But there are some rich people who feel like they should be in a special category. Some in this article saying they believe the tax is punitive. But Kamala Harris has been consistent, like Joe Biden, in making ultra wealthy people pay their fair share and ensuring that it's middle class people that have an opportunity to get ahead in this country. So I don't see her changing her policies. And if those billionaires want to take their billions and go support Donald Trump, have at it. Because the reality is, as you said, small donors are fueling this campaign in so many ways. And one thing about wealthy people is in this country right now, there's no shortage of them. So for better or for worse, there's a whole lot of them out there. And we know a lot of them are supporting her. When we come forward, I want to talk about Donald Trump flip-flopping on IVF. His base, lots of these anti-abortion supporters of his are very, very angry, very, very upset about his position on, giving the states the decisions around abortion, not supporting the federal ban, things that he has promised to them. But I don't know how much we can trust him on this. I mean, we know he hardly trust him on anything. He's such a liar. But on this policy in particular, because of the way he's bragged about having justices to overturn Roe v. Wade, now to suggest that he's this big supporter of IVF, and so much so that he wants the government to pay for it. The question I'm asking, is this real? And is this something that women and families in particular can trust coming from Donald Trump? When we come forward, right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
In real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
This is 30-second Chevy Spring into Adventure Radio, produced for Carol H. Williams Agency, produced by Radio Bob Resort on July 29th, 2024. Spot title, Grab the Keys, short, August 30. ISKI code GCSV0012000.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take
like an auntie to the swap meet.
Grab the keys. Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% APR on all 2024 Silverado 1500, Blazer EV, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Colorado models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 12.7%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/3/24.
KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Ed, how much confidence do you have in the man who brags about appointing justices to overturn Roe v. Wade, now saying that he is a staunch supporter of IVF, and so much so that he wants to make sure that the $20,000 or so procedure is paid for by the government or by private health insurance? That's what Donald Trump is out saying as a part of his policy platform, a part of his interview. He just did an interview with NBC recently where he made this pronouncement. Can we rely on Donald Trump in terms of this statement?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of inconsistencies with it. I think first he is trying to, in some ways, soften his anti-abortion platform by putting this out. The motivation for it, though, is it's also one of the, I spoke earlier about sort of these unseen innuendos. And when I think about the Heritage Foundation and some of the writers that have basically written his platform, one of those theories is that, the white population has to produce more people. And they lay this out there when they're at Heritage Foundation events. And this is one of those proposals that kind of comes from that space. That if this ever did get implemented, it wouldn't be offered, in Latino communities. It wouldn't be offered in Black and brown communities. This is one of those things that, this is distasteful in 2024 to actually have to talk about it. I don't think it's something that would help him necessarily with women voters across this country, especially given the way that he feels about women that have been successful and how they achieve their success. So, in the end game, I think this is a non-starter.
It's interesting, Rafe, what Ed said is that the Heritage Foundation recognizes that they need more white babies to be born. And IVF is a way to have more babies born, no matter what the color or race, ethnicity of that baby is. So you have these competing interests. You have these anti-abortion advocates who oppose IVF because they say in the process you may have to discard unused embryos, and they see that as discarding life, because for them, life starts, 2 seconds after you have sex, really, in their minds. And you have these people, though, that say we need more white kids. How do you reconcile the two groups? And both of these groups are traditionally Republican MAGA voters.
Beats me. I mean, I think that part of this
Right, you don't know how to create more white kids. Come on.
Well, that's a different question. But Donald Trump doesn't care about policy. I mean, this whole policy debate, he's thinking politics here. So, and I think a lot of his followers know that whatever he says now, they're going to have the upper hand if he gets into the White House, and he's not going to really care what they do. He's not going to exert himself one way or the other. He just wants to win the election. if you look at it that way, this is a political move to get a headline that says Donald Trump moderate on reproductive rights. He's now portraying himself as great on reproductive rights. If he can get 8 or 10 of those headlines, he'll consider this a very, very good week and a very good month. And if people fall for that, there's not much you can do. But this is not a considered policy position to reconcile conflicting needs. It's a fact that he probably recognizes more than his colleagues in the party what Dobbs has done to the Republican Party's prospects. That's the fundamental thing that I keep saying again and again. I can't say it enough, that the election is driven this year by, as 2022 was, by Dobbs, the Dobbs decision. So this is his way of sort of finding a way back into that conversation. And he'll need some help, but I don't think it has anything to do with what would happen if he was actually in office. I don't think he'd be a roadblock or an engine one way or the other on the issue.
No, he's going to be too busy trying to make sure all those lawsuits and prosecutions and prosecutorial actions against him are dismissed. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he cares one way or the other. He's well past his child rearing age. His children, other than Barron, have their children. He doesn't care about the issue of abortions or IVF or any of that. He just cares about power and yielding that power. Celebrities, Ed, are playing a big role in this election. There was all the rumors about Beyonce making a big appearance on Thursday night at the DNC that never materialized. And now you have the Swifties, this really organized group of supporters and fans of Taylor Swift who've come together, 34,000 of them on a Zoom, which has become the new way to organize people and to raise money. $122,000 raised. And for some, the fact that the Swifties, these are the people that support Taylor Swift throughout the world, the fact that they've gotten so involved in this campaign has some folks speculating that Taylor Swift herself is going to make a late entry in terms of an endorsement. But just how powerful are, if at all, endorsements by these mega stars like Taylor Swift, like Beyonce, like Jay-Z? We know that Jay-Z did a concert for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Maybe helped some, but she still lost that election. So just what impact do these celebrity endorsements have?
Well, I think it differs on the celebrity, right? Just to be famous doesn't mean that you can influence my vote for president. But if you've got a history of using your celebrity to advance causes that I agree with, then yeah, I could absolutely get motivated. A John Legend comes to mind. To your point, Jay-Z, when it comes to criminal justice, we've seen them use their celebrity to raise money and play an active role in issues that for me I care about. The Swiftie comparison is really interesting because it feels like her fan base is going to pull her out. She may or may not have made an announcement at some point or in the future, but what's really clear is that by her own fans organizing and doing something, it may actually pull an endorsement out of her.
Yeah, Rafe, Oprah Winfrey made a surprise appearance, and she vowed not to get involved in politics after the Obamas. And she told us at the convention that she was independent; she wasn't a Democrat, and she was speaking to her, fellow independent and undecided voters. How significant do you think that endorsement from someone like Oprah? Not many young people, appreciate Oprah's largeness, but definitely a certain generation of people, remember Oprah and the cars and all the other things that she gave away. And she's pretty influential to a certain group of people.
Well, Ed said it right, which is that it depends on the celebrity. And in Oprah's case, it was the speech, not her endorsement. It was that she gave a rip-roaring speech in the company of a set of rip-roaring speeches. That elevated the endorsement way beyond seeing her name. Now, Taylor Swift is a phenomenon. I don't know how many dates she has this year traveling. Is it 55 concerts, something like that, drawing phenomenal support. And she also has a generational appeal that is really unheard of. Remember, she endorsed Biden in 2020, so it's not a big reach. Trump's people probably made a big mistake putting out word that she was going to endorse him, which probably didn't go well. And now some of her fans are drawing her out. I think the probably smart move was to not have either Beyonce or Taylor Swift say anything during the convention. Why step on what's already a winning story? Wait till after Labor Day. but don't wait too long because people are going to vote early. So I'd be surprised if she didn't endorse, and I think it will have a very big impact because of her constituency. Harris campaign keeps reaching new constituencies that haven't been very excited or active. That's kind of the magic sauce of this campaign right now. And the Taylor Swift endorsement would potentially add a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, that would be huge. And you know, Donald Trump, of course, lying about Taylor Swift is not going to endorse Donald Trump. We know that hands down. But even Isaac Hayes, his estate, suing him over the use of his music. He can't use anyone's music, and he keeps doing it over and over again without permission. He keeps getting these cease and desist letters and keeps getting threatened with lawsuits. This guy has turned off pretty much Hollywood, which is, you know, kind of hard to do. I mean, we're not even seeing people like Clint Eastwood this time around come out in support of him. Are you surprised by that at all?
A little bit. I've seen a couple of the wrestlers. I mean, I remember like Hulk Hogan and Dana White. So I mean, he does have some some celebrities in his orbit. I don't think they're truly impactful. But I also think this is just a really, really tired campaign. It's a regurgitated campaign. So no, I think you're going to see him flail the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think Rob says even Jesse Ventura might have endorsed Kamala Harris. So much for wrestlers.
Mm-hmm. We got the better.
So much for getting the support of wrestlers. And I'm sitting here thinking Hulk Hogan, oh my God, is he even still alive? Poor man, not trying to kill him off, but you're right. The campaign is just tired. No, they can't infuse any energy into it. You have JD Vance going around again, telling Kamala Harris to shut the hell up or sit the hell down about something she didn't even say or do. They just make up these like straw images so they can knock them down. And JD Vance has been pretty much, silenced. Nobody listens to him. Nobody cares about him. He's made himself a laughingstock with all of his ridiculous comments. Interesting though. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with both of you. You have such insightful analysis on politics because you have all this history about what's happened in the past, and it's important to know the past. It gives us a good look into what the future is likely to hold. So again, thank you so much, Ray. Thank you, Ed, for joining me in this hour. When we come forward, we're going to be talking about the digital divide. Yes, there's still people who don't have access to the internet, and then folks who are on the internet who are being constantly targeted with disinformation. What do we do? Got answers for you when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Bye, Areva. Bye, Ed.
Bye. Take care.